Let's take a look at my home theater with regards to Kaleidescape and Control4 and all the other equipment I have in terms of how I use automation to manage lights and picture aspect ratios and all of that super seamlessly, particularly with the functionalities available in the Kaleidescape. Pretty awesome. Let's break it all down. All right, in this video, I'm going to break down and give a demonstration, a how-to, and then we'll get into the specifics of how, in my home theater space, I integrate a Kaleidescape player, Control4, and the JVC NX7 projector in a multi-aspect ratio environment. So I have the JVC NX7, I have a Kaleidescape Strato C, and a Control4 system driven off of an EA5 controller. And all of this firing onto my 163-inch ultra widescreen Seymour acoustically transparent screen. Kaleidescape makes all of this stuff come together really great through Control4, such that I can accomplish all of this without something like Illumigen, without an external processor scaler, and I'm not using an external lens. This is all just based on settings and programming capability available natively in the devices. So to start off, I'll say that I'm standing here in the back of my room. We're looking at this ultra widescreen Seymour screen, and right now the Kaleidescape UI is being shown in what I set as its native format, 16:9. So we're filling about 133-inch diagonal 16:9 image within the wider 163-inch scope screen. The lights are set at the level that we maintain them at for when we're not actually watching content, a nice soft like 20% dimming level. The can lights that are up in the ceiling. Still darker, still cozy, but bright enough that anybody could get up and move around and see their popcorn and, you know, go use the restroom and come back and such. So what I want to try to accomplish, what I have accomplished in my theater, is using the automation cues and using all these systems together, the ability to manage those lights and manage what we see on the screen relative to playing content without it having to be a manual exercise to change the modes and change the controls. So we're going to do a demonstration, then we're going to jump over actually into the Control4 Composer software and show how this programming is set up. So if I were navigating around, I should comment as well that for the purposes of our theater use, and particularly this demonstration, we are using Control4 remotes. This is the Control4 NEEO. It has a touchscreen, color touchscreen there, where all of the devices and such that we want to command and control in the system are available. The Kaleidescape is just one of those pieces. So I can navigate around the UI. I can go into and out of different items, start, control, playback, and all of that. So I will be manipulating everything here using just the Control4 NEEO, no additional remotes, no projector remote, no Kaleidescape remote, or any of that. So in a normal viewing, if we were just going to watch something, that would be in a 16:9 or a 4:3 image, I'm just going to use Transformers, the movie in this case. This is actually a 185:1 aspect ratio, slightly wider than standard 16:9. But if I play this, and I'm not going to cut anything out, I kind of want the ability to see things as they happen. We are going black here. You can see actually there's the lighting cue. So as playback to the content started, Control4 or Kaleidescape sent the command to the Control4 system that, hey, we started some playback. Let's shut those lights down. The lights are completely off. They dimmed to 0%. The content started there. I don't want any takedowns, so I'm going to just basically pause this. I'm not going to show any or very much at all live actual movie content. But notice a couple things. We went dark there on the screen for a little while. That was for two different reasons. One, we were changing over from a 60 Hertz 60 FPS UI to 24 Hertz playback. In addition to that, this content is in 4K HDR, and so you might have heard the electrical whining noise. The color filter moved into place for wider color gamut and such for HDR. So the projector did that at its own, on its own command based on its own setting. That's not part of Control4. But that takes a little bit of time. You get the blackout, you get the resync and such. But here, where we would just watch and enjoy this type of content on the screen, 133-inch roughly image for anything that's 177, 185 to 1 or a 4:3 aspect ratio. So I want you to watch this here. The movie's over. Unicron has been defeated. Wrapping up. We're about to finish the film, and we're about to hit the credits. There goes Unicron's head, which led us into the maybe not so great additional seasons of the original 80s Transformers cartoons. There's our credits rolling, and if you could notice, the light level of the room just changed a little bit. The lights just came on. They just came on automatically based on the metadata cues that are in every piece of Kaleidescape content telling the system, hey, I'm playing credits. And if you want to take some action because we're in the credits, you don't need to wait until the movie's over to have the lights come on. You can do it as a result of the credits. And that's one of the really cool aspects of Kaleidescape overall, is how they do stuff like that, the extra level of control and automation and all of that, the metadata that goes in to every piece of content that they show. Otherwise, it's worth mentioning that anytime during a movie, if I were to pause or stop, the lights would also come back on to this same accessible level within the room. Again, automatically based on that programming and based on those automation cues. So I'm going to stop playback of this. I'm just going to let it go. You'll see it a few seconds. The color filter moved back out because the UIs in the Kaleidescape are not in HDR. And there we are. We're back. We're back on the UI itself. Now let's take a look at something that's actually in ultra widescreen. Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, 240 to 1 aspect ratio. This is going to take a little bit longer. I'm trying to keep the focus in place here. So we're back to the menu. Again, the lights are on their 20% level. It's dim, it's comfortable. We could get in and out of the space. Now, everybody refresh their popcorn. We're going to watch this second movie. We're all sitting down on the couch, grab the Control4 NEEO remote, and in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and resume. Now, this is going to take a little longer because a couple different things are happening at the same time. And I just want to do it in real time so you get a real indication of what's going on. So there's the lighting. The lighting has gone back down. There's the color filter. And the projector's doing a lot of stuff right now. And notice the screen changing. We're getting that zoom. We're getting that relocation of the screen. So if I pause here, actually I want to let this go for just another second because I'm expecting that we're going to get that final blackout. There it is. And we're back. And so the projector did a bunch of stuff there. It changed from 60 Hertz mode to 24 Hertz mode. It went from SDR to HDR and moved the color filter into place. But it also, via Control4, was commanded. Kaleidescape told us, hey, we're playing extra widescreen content in this aspect ratio. Execute the command, and in that command, we're putting the JVC in my scope or in my second installation mode where I'm zoomed and shifted and focused for wider screen content. And so all of that happens automatically. It does take a little bit. You're kind of stuck sitting there. And quite honestly, when we do this, most of the time, I do grab for the remote and I pause the image because the sound and the playback will start before everything that the projector doing finishes by maybe several seconds or so. It's not terrible. It's just something that you kind of have to work around. And once it's done, it's done. You're good for the rest of the movie and you're all set to go. But it does take a little bit of time to accomplish all of that shifting, zooming, adjustment, and change and such that's being commanded in the projector itself. So if I go ahead and stop this now and stop playback, we're going to go the other way. So now course, our lights came back on. And the projector is doing the inverse. It's switching from HDR to SDR. It's switching from 24 hertz to 60 hertz, but it's also shifting and moving and putting the screen back into the normal mode setting and the regular, basically the regular 16:9 mode. There's the color filter just moved back out. And sometimes you'll see the image back up and it will still be shifting. Sometimes in this case, it basically did all of that shifting and stuff while the image was still down. It's just the order of operations for how the JVC executes all of those different commands. But you can see I have command and control here. Once the image came back up, we're fit back into that 133-inch 16:9 image within the screen itself. And note in this case, we didn't get that extra black off. That extra black, like all of that picture adjustment and change and shifting must have happened before the image came back up on screen. But again, I accomplished all of this. I never touched the JVC remote. I never touched a Kaleidescape remote, all done with these devices and all done through Control4. So let's take a look at the actual Control4 setup and how this programming is set and accomplished. All right, so here we have Control4 Composer Home Edition. Really great software. When you have a Control4 system, there are a variety of things that are dealer dependent that the dealer must set up and manage and configure in your system, but you can get access to this home edition of their software, allowing you to do a whole plethora of programming and configurations and special settings and options. And so everything that I've done in the system, or everything done in the system actually, related to what I just demonstrated, you don't have to have a dealer set up. You can actually program all of that in Composer Home Edition. So I want to point out a few things. I'm not meaning for this video to be a complete like Composer Home overview. I may do that as a separate type of thing, but suffice to say, we have our configuration, we have our system set up, we have our home, we have our main config, and within that, all of that hierarchy, right, we have our theater room. Our theater room is outfitted with a variety of Control4 items that have their requisite drivers and interface to the system. I have the Control4 dimmer switch here called ceiling that drives the 4 lights that are enabled in the room right now. We have our NEEO remote, of course the projector, that's the JVC NX7, got my Anthem AVM70 there, and the Kaleidescape. So let's take a look at the programming setup for the Kaleidescape and how we've used it again to manage both the lighting and the projector installation modes automatically. So if I select the Kaleidescape, I'm going to come down here to programming to actually see the programming options. Oh, it looks like I actually have to re-select Kaleidescape. Down here on the left, actually Home Composer is kind of split into these 3 main sections. We have a programming option on the left, which is basically what is it we're programming. We have the script section in the middle where we can actually put the commands in, set their order, and basically build the programming. And then actions over on the right hand side is where we pull specific elements of command and control and conditionals into what we're programming. So if I look through the different events that are available on the Kaleidescape device, I can see I've got power on and power off. I'm not doing anything in the room via Control4 with those events, but I am doing things on some of the others. So we've got play, pause, and stop commands. Everything actually that I use is down here in the basically custom command set. And you can see there's a lot of different options in here, basically programming triggers that you can use to set additional actions and behaviors in your system. There's some CinemaScape triggers, there's color depth and sampling and color space changes, there's dynamic range. But what I really want to focus on here is towards the bottom. So we have a couple different programming elements related to lights. First one there, lights to end credit levels. So when I showed how in Transformers there we hit the credits and the lights in the room came on, This is the cue. Again, for every piece of content in the Kaleidescape system, they register the time code where the credits start, and you get the home automation system trigger command information sent out that can be responded to. And really simply, all I'm doing here is when we hit end credits level, we are ramping to level 20% lighting on the theater ceiling lights over a period of 5 seconds. And if I look at how that's programmed, over on the right here I have actions. I can pick those ceiling lights, and here I can set a ramp to a certain level, right, over a certain amount of time, and then I would just drag that. I would drag that command in there. And Control4 lets you define the sequencing. It lets you define all kinds of conditionals and delays and other things. I should point out, you can see that I do have some conditionals around this, basically saying if the theater room is powered on and the room is currently using the Kaleidescape, then do the actual lighting command in this case. That's because I was using my Kaleidescape in a multi-zone setup through the AVM70 to be able to access it both in the theater and in the living room. And when I'm using the Kaleidescape in the living room, I don't need it changing light control status and state and these other things in the theater. So in that case here, I specifically wanted to protect these commands and their actuation, making sure that they were done as a result of being executed in the theater space itself. So there's the end credits level. We have lights to intermission level, again indicating that movie playback has been stopped, paused, interrupted in some way. So in that case, we're turning the lights on. Menu level is the same thing. So we've stopped a movie, we've gone back to the menus, ramp the lights to the same level 20, basically turn them on, and then we have lights to movie playing level, ramp to 0, turn them off. And I found that I like the 5-second ramping time. I use that throughout the entire household, actually, when we're dimming lights on and off for various reasons. I find 5 seconds to be a comfortable amount of time. So that's the lighting commands. Basically, these special cues, again, registered from the automation setup, programmed to command the lights to certain levels based on their occurrences. I did want to point out one other quick thing that I noticed actually as a result of this video and changing around some of the programming and such, getting ready for it. I did find one little deficiency in the behavior of my system, and it actually showed up in the demo there. I kind of glossed over it though, which is I didn't get the dim back up of the room lights when I actually put the movie into pause. And so I actually had a mistake in here, and I can correct this basically immediately, but essentially having the lights to end credits, intermission, menu, movie playing level doesn't seem to fully command when you pause. When you pause of a pause command off of the Control4 remote. So I did in fact restore the programming setup here that on the Kaleidescape event pause, we're forcibly ramping the room back to 20, and then when you resume play from a pause state, ramping the level back down to 0. I think it's treating basically when you're in a movie playing, when content is playing, respective of whether it's actively playing or you then manually pause and manually resume, you're still in this movie playing level state, and pausing doesn't change your state within these 4 types of constraints. So as an aside, if you want the light on and off actuation for pause and playback, then you need to have the programming also enabled on the pause and play commands there deliberately. I didn't specifically program stop. The lights to menu level picks that one up because when you do stop playback, you are put back to the menu, and so you get kind of multiple triggers regardless of what button you push or how you get out of the content back to the menu. This will always get my lights back on. So I wanted to put that little correction in there, and that learning point. Always learning, always figuring out the better ways to do stuff and the more complete ways to make sure that everything is doing what it's supposed to be doing when you want it to. So now, how do we command the installation modes of the projector? We have those options right here. Now, note, I don't actually have masking in my system, but I'm still using the masking command. So you can see here we have 6 of them. Mask to 133, mask to 166, 178, 185, 235, which is basically 235 and 240, and then we have a mask unknown setting. So if I look at these, mask to 133, I'm programming the system to say when Kaleidescape says we're in 133 playback mode, put the projector in its installation mode 1. So if I look over here at actions, I look at the projector, this is the JVC NX7. If I look at the commands, down at the bottom here, device-specific commands, amongst everything that I can program, I can find the installation mode, and there's the 10 available installation modes of the JVC. I'm using mode 1 for basically normal 16:9, 4:3, etc. type of aspect ratio content, and I use mode 2 for ultra-wide, 235, 240 to 1 content. So if I go back here just to check mask to 133, we go to projector installation mode 1. 166, same thing, projector installation mode 1. 178, that's true 16:9 aspect ratio, installation mode 1. 185, I also use installation mode 1. This is something though that I actually need to just take the time and make an adjustment for. There's actually quite a few 185 to 1 pieces of content out there, and 185 is a little wider than 178, and if I set up a third installation mode on my JVC that zoomed and shifted and focused the image, I could make a slightly larger 185 zoom than by putting the 185 image in the 177. Just to date, I've only done the 2 modes, and I really just need to get down here and take the time to make a 185 because, hey, why not have the 185 image be 4 inches or so bigger than the 178 and just have it all work automatically. So here's the other mode, mask to 235. We're setting JVC installation mode. And then as just kind of the catch-all, if for some reason there's an unknown aspect ratio, I just default it to the 16:9 mode to the mode 1. Honestly, the metadata that I have found in the Kaleidescape system has been so complete that it's been registered on every piece of content that I've ever tried. So that's it. Super simple, just immediate, direct, basic commands. Kaleidescape sending the information to the Control4 system, commanding the hook, right, the catch, the ability to add additional programming behind state changes, and it all just works beautifully through Composer. There's so much more to command. There's so much more to do. If you have a very elaborate system and you really want to tweak modes and settings, right? We look at all the options available on that JVC. We look at all the different modes and command settings available on the Kaleidescape. You could really, really customize your stuff to the advanced level if you needed to with all of these capabilities. So there you go, Kaleidescape, Control4, JVC NX7 projector, ultra widescreen, scope screen, lighting control, installation modes, auto aspect ratio adjustment, automatic flags changing and commanding room state when movies hit certain points and sequences, stopping, pausing, playback, automatic credit, lights on. Just really awesome. One of the best reasons I think to have a Kaleidescape player in your system, if you have this, this type of setup and you're able to capitalize on all of this stuff. No other playback system that I'm aware of has such clean integration in the ability to program and do this stuff. This is just with Control4. As I understand it, this works equally well with other types of control systems, Crestron or whatever. Kaleidescape is built for these types of environments, and the features and automation and integration capabilities really second to none, and just makes using your room, the theater experience of your space, just elegant and awesome. So if you have any questions about this, please ask in the comments. I'm happy to provide some more detail. If I glossed over something or you want to see me explain something in more detail, let me know. I'm happy to answer in the comments. I'm also happy to make additional videos around this, breaking something down in more detail if it's needed. Otherwise, do take a look at the prior video I made all about the JVC NX7 projector and how to actually configure and set up those installation modes so that they can be commanded and accessible through a Control4 system and tied to a source playback device like the Kaleidescape. That'll be popping up here in just a second. Otherwise, please do all the regular YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Please do share this content if you know somebody or some theater groups and discussion areas and whatnot out there online where folks could benefit from seeing this, maybe get inspired and want to achieve or accomplish some of these things, in their own theater spaces. Check back for more, and thanks so much for watching.